What's good, everyone, and welcome back to Kaya's Commentary. And if you're new here, welcome to Kaya's Commentary. This is a podcast that offers commentary on pop culture topics, real world issues, and anything in between. This is episode 9 of my 13-part series entitled Picture This, where I look at Black, Indigenous, people of color representation in media of old and how that affects their presence in the sci-fi fiction fantasies today. So, in episode 8, we talked about The Walking Dead and characters like Michonne and Glenn and Morgan. I did have a couple more characters. I had Tyrese and Sasha and Rosetta. Instead of splitting this up into two parts and then just like finishing that out, because that would mean adding another episode, and I've already been saying 13-part episode, I will come back in my conclusion episode, which will be episode 13, and talk a little bit more about them. Today, we are looking at Amazon Prime's Gen V. This is a spinoff of The Boys, and it follows Marie Monroe as she enrolls in Godolphin University, which is a university meant to train the next generation of soups. However, something sinister bubbling beneath the surface prevents her really from attending. So, in season 1, the human administration are studying and dissecting soups down below in an underground dungeon below the school in the hopes of finding a virus that will be able to kill them or at least control them because they fear them in their destructive ways. So Marie Monroe, and I don't want to call it her ragtag gang, but her young group of hero friends. So we have Marie Monroe, we have Andre Anderson, we have Jordan Lee, we have Kate, we have Emma. So they all work, and by proxy, Sam. So they all work to stop this administration, except Sam and Kate have their own agenda. And then by season 2, we get a new administration that is fully soup, and the humans on campus are the ones that walk around in fear now. So we have Dean Cyper. He's the new dean, and he's really intent on working with Marie, getting her to develop her powers more, to make her more powerful. He has a really deep investment in her. We find out that he is actually Thomas Godolphin. He's this poor human, random human, poor Dougie, R.I.P. Dougie. Um, he's been controlled by Thomas Godolphin, and so Godolphin is pushing Marie so that he may, eventually use her power. He wants her to be as strong as Homelander, maybe even more so, so that he can end up using her power. Um, the young heroes stop him, and then they officially go join up with the rebels, that are the boys. So for the most part, and looking for like reactions to Marie Monroe and Andre Anderson and Jordan Lee, the Black and people of color cast, I really was just able to find like a couple of, pieces on them, but mostly the show as a whole, which is fine. We will use the reaction to the show as a whole and still place it in that critically positive, critically negative, bordering on offensive, somewhere in the middle, um, or offensive, right? So let's get into it. We have Boogie0000. They gave it a 7 out of 10. And they, in a really long comment, say superheroes with growing pains. Gen V, the spinoff of the hit series The Boys, throws us into the lives of the hormonal, competitive superheroes in training at the prestigious Vought American University. It is a potent mix of teen drama, superhero action, and The Boys' signature dark humor. But does it live up to its predecessor's legacy? Gen V delves deeper into the inner workings of Vought, the corporation that creates and exploits superheroes. We see the sausage making of superhero creation, the ruthless marketing strategies, and the devastating consequences of those experiments. They go on to say the young actors bring their characters to life with genuine charm and vulnerability. Jazz Sinclair shines as Marie Monroe, as a troubled girl with a dark past and a dangerous power. Gen V doesn't hold back on the violence and is often darkly funny. Think exploding body parts, superhero infighting gone wrong, and enough blood to fill a few swimming pools. This series tackles relevant themes like teenager anxiety, social media influence on identity, and the commodifications of bodies in the superhero industry. It's not afraid to get under the skin of these complex issues. The overarching mystery can feel convoluted at times with predictable twists and turns. You've seen you've seen these genre tropes before, and Gen V doesn't subvert them in any meaningful way. They go on to say the show sometimes swings wildly between gritty realism and over-the-top silliness. It can be hard to find its footing tonally, leaving you feeling like you're watching two different shows taped together. We're mostly confined to the university campus, which can feel constrictive compared to the boys' expansive universe. A wider scope could have allowed for a richer world building and exploratory of superhero society. Action sequences are well choreographed with exciting and impressive special effects for a TV show. The soundtrack pulsates with a blend of edgy rock and synth-heavy electronica and capturing the show's rebellious spirit. Cinematography is slick and stylish with dynamic camera work and striking visuals that invoke a hyper-real teenage world. So that was a lot. And we're going to give it a critically positive rating. We're going to put it in that critically positive category. It doesn't gas up the show, doesn't hype up the show, doesn't tear down the show. It's right in the middle. It almost offers you just like a well-rounded synopsis of it, but it also gives, its own opinions. They feel that Jazz Sinclair does well. They could have gone a little bit more into why they feel that she did well, but also it praises the show for its camera work and for its ability to tackle a society, a corporation like Vought and the inner workings of that marketing and that cutthroatness, and also the teenage young adult era that we're supposed to be, we're made to feel that we're in. So with that, I'll put it in the critically positive category. Um, Solfin gives it a 2.5 and says a decent story lost in modern political messaging. This is also kind of long-winded as they try to be stealthy in their review. This series has some good potential, and there's a lot of room for growth for a good show here. Unfortunately, most of this potential is entirely wasted in favor of continuing to promote the same pseudo-political messaging that was a driving force in ruining the Lord of the Rings series. Simply put, the powers that be at Amazon Studios haven't learned their lesson yet and are still at it. Let me share with you a fine example of what I'm talking about without spoiling anything for you. The character in this show has superpowers. They appear to have super strength, super duality, some kind of energy field, force powers and the ability to change genders at will. Now, as you may have guessed by my description, only one facet of these powers are ever discussed or explored in detail and it isn't the energy, strength, or the duality. It is, of course, the ability to change genders, despite the fact that of all the powers this person has, this is the most useless and least helpful for a superhero, seems to be entirely optional for the hero in question. In one scene, this character is with their parents discussing them as a child and how they chased around a little girl, and they always thought that they would be man and wife. Then, just despite the father, they change into a girl and say they used to try on girl dresses too, and that maybe they could have been wife and wife instead. The show then goes hard to portray the father as a trans bigot, ending with him stating that he thinks sometimes they change into a girl just to spite him. The show then plays the superhero character as the victim, having them claim that they've always been this person, regardless of gender, despite the fact that we literally just saw the conversation being they changed genders in public during that conversation, just despite the father, exactly like you said. You'll find similar issues throughout the show. You can also expect to see a lot of penises in the show, but never nude female because woke. The acting is decent for the most part, except the lead actor who feels more like an elementary school student performing in a play. She's just bad. Overall, I'd say save yourself some time if you're trying to get up to speed to be ready for the boys. Just read the synopsis of the show to save you an entire day's worth of viewing and you'll miss nothing meaningful. Offensive. Offensive. Directly use the phrase woke. And first off, Jordan Lee is not a trans character. They are a bi-gender character. There is a difference. Um, Also, this notion of never see female nudity because of woke. This show doesn't have to have female nudity. It doesn't even have to have as much male nudity as it does. And the way you portrayed it, it didn't seem like you all that much cared for the male nudity either. Um, what would seeing female nudity add to this show? Like, what would explicitly seeing boobies and yayas add to the show? Like, explicitly. Also, Jordan Lee is an Asian presenting character, and so I feel there is a depth in the bigenderness of that character, especially like, the dad um saying like, can't you just be a boy for me? That, we talked about Asian familial expectations versus the child, pursuing their own goals, right? Their own way of life. To me, it plays into that and the notion of I'd like you to accept me the way that I am. Now, it might have been spite. I don't want to say it was spite for spite's purpose. It's just that we don't have this great relationship, and I've known for a long time that you don't like me being a girl, and that made me feel bad about myself. So now that I'm an adult, why don't I make you feel bad about making me feel bad about something that I can't control because something you injected into me? I didn't ask you to inject this stuff into me. You did that. So, there is context to that, and I feel that this comment is not really going in on that um context. Also, Marie Moreau, she's just bad. Quite literally, that is in my description that you can't you can't say. Critically positive, it goes more into depth than I really like it. Critically negative goes more into depth than it's just bad. You've done all three. You've done everything that I said not to do. So we are going to place this in the offensive category. Let's move on to our next comment. So Mattia, I can't really see that name. Mattia Meliento says, and they give it a 7 out of 10, nowhere near as good as The Boys. I was really looking forward to this show, but now I've seen it, I kind of feel a bit let down. The main character is totally uninteresting and boring. I think she was the wrong choice for the main character, and the blood superpower is pretty pathetic as well. I just want every cringing scene. I just want every cringing scene she's in to be over as quickly as possible. Let's hope she gets killed off as soon as possible and replaced with a proper main character. Everyone running around with phones, taking selfies all the time is a bit silly too. Are all people on the of that age that immature and pathetic? I know it revolves around characters in college. It doesn't mean that the whole show should be written specifically teenagers either, because that's what it feels like. So this kind of goes back to this notion that, and I hate to be that person because I have videos on my TikTok, so I won't really get into it here, but the notion of don't like it, don't read, don't like it, don't engage, that has a time and a place, and the way it's been used online now, it's being used in the wrong time at the wrong place. Here, though, the thing that I noticed with a lot of negative comments is that oh, there are so many better things to watch. This was just horrible. I cringed at every scene. I just want her to die. I don't understand how this is so well liked. Horrible. And I'll get into these comments, right? I'm not exaggerating. I'll get into these comments. And some will still be critically negative, but still, if you dislike it that much, with a lot of these negative comments, it's like you're acting like somebody put a gun to your head and made you watch the show. You didn't have to watch the show. Um, I'm gonna put it in offensive. There is no offering as to why they feel Marie is a bad character or why they feel that the actress was the wrong person for the character. As far as like everyone running around with their phones, we see this in The Boys. We don't see like people running around with their phones, but like this level of marketing um and that corporationism of superheroes, we see that in The Boys. It's expounded upon here. You actually get to see how they're training people to have PR training like that of Homelander, right? So I feel like it's not as a genuous, I feel like it's rather a disingenuous take, and I don't believe that it goes into as much depth as it should. If you feel that she is the wrong lead because you don't have to like the character. Can you back up why you feel that she is not a good character or a good actor for the character? That's not happening here. Also, lastly, it feels like it's specifically written for teenagers and it shouldn't. Well, maybe it should be. This kind of goes back to like what I was saying, you don't have to engage with it. If you're feeling like it's not for you, it might not be for you. You don't have to watch any spinoff, but especially Gen V because you like the boys. I used to be a big fan of the Hunger Games. I didn't like Snake of Songbird of Snake, and I did review it. I didn't even think it needed to be in existence, but I did review it. But I have not watched or read and have no plans on reviewing um the latest one because it's not for me at this point. It's for another generation who I guess thinks that they require add-ons. It's not for me. I'm not going to engage in it, right? If you feel like it's not for you, don't try to make it for you. If it's overwhelmingly obvious that it is not for you, don't try to lace that shoe up and wear it. So we're going to put that in offensive. Um, with that, I'm going to transition a little bit to a couple of the character um reactions that I found. Wasn't many. Like I said, this show, it really was like more of a show as a whole that um people talked about. So, someone says, let me see. Muscular goth femboy says Marie Monroe has to be the dumbest character in all fiction. They found an almost dying man in Cypher's house. Then they found out that Cypher has no V in his blood. Cypher stabs himself, showing he doesn't give a damn about his body. Then they discover that Cypher actually has superpowers, but they're not in his body, so it has to be someone else, right? Maybe the guy in the hyperbolic chamber as at Cypher's house, but I don't know. Cypher keeps trying to train Marie with the clear goal of curing and resurrecting people, a skill a dying man would obviously be interested in. Then Marie's sister tells her not to go fight Cypher and something awful will happen, but Marie doubts her visions, her literal superpower, and goes anyway, taking with her the other most important soup in the series, Polarity, the only one who could possibly counter Cypher's powers. Um, and this is actually pretty much of a long one. And instead of just going to kill Cypher with her powers, she decides to cure Thomas Godokin, who, according to Stan Edgar himself, has the key to control all soups. How no one connected that to Cypher's ability to control soups just blows my mind. And she does it without restoring Kate's power to control him and make sure he actually helps. So instead of trusting Kate, who clearly shows she's changed, already risking her life to help them and forgave them for almost killing her, she decides to trust a little mummy from the from 100 years ago who ran multiple experiments to create godlike soups for totally selfless reasons, I'm sure. I don't know. I just hate Marie. She so desperately wants to be the chosen one and the savior of everyone by herself because she has to be the center of attention while constantly insisting she's not special just so people keep inflating her ego by telling her she is special. The only thing she needed to do was stay in the damn bunker eating Cheetos with her friends. But no, she had to go get all the attention running away at the night, um, right into an obvious trap. So, um, that's the hard one, to be honest. Because there are a couple of insults. Marie, she's not the dumbest character in all of fiction. Um, she's young. She is young. And honestly, this notion that positions Marie as like she wants to be the savior and she has to do it and she fell right into that cliche. Kate does the same thing. This person they bring up Kate and how Kate is, and I'm not saying they were saying she's benevolent, but how Kate is benevolent and forgiving them for almost killing her. Mind you, it was an accident. For like almost killing her and all the events of the end of season one where Kate releases all the soups from the dungeon and they go on a killing spree, right? Kate buys into this same, you're better than them, and now I'm the chosen one. She had to get knocked off that pedestal. Marie had to get knocked off that pedestal. So I see the logic in it, right? Like I don't want to like infantilize her, and say, well, she's, of course she didn't think about it that way. Because for us, the audience, it was obvious. You definitely knew by the time them like last few episodes came around, you definitely knew what was up. You watched it anyway. Um, but I don't know. She desperately wants to be the chosen one. She she bought into it, but she bought into it like Kate bought into it. And I guess my question is, when Kate was buying into it, when Kate was drinking the Kool-Aid, were you saying the same thing? We're gonna put it in that it's a middle ground of bordering on offensive and logic. So we're gonna put it in that middle ground. To counter this, and basically kind of say what I say, Cubic Plant says, you all forget how literally everyone was feeding her with this bullcrap about her being so powerful, one of a kind, miracle to ever walk this earth. So no wonder her ego grew large and she thought she could literally do everything by herself. Again, she drinking the Kool-Aid, you know, begrudgingly, but Kate drank it willingly. Did you have the same smoke for Kate? So, um, then we get to Dummy Patrol. Now, this is more towards Andre and the death of the character. Um, Someone posed a question if they thought it was weird that they would use the real life death of the actor to as a plot device in the character, and they were like, well, maybe Andre could have just ran off or flown off somewhere. He walked away or something, and that's not in his character, right? So Dummy Patrol says, honestly, I think what they did was great. They can't reshoot his scenes. They can't just pretend he never existed. And his death is completely within the established character at the end of season one. Andre wouldn't run off, skip town, or leave his friends and etc. He was shown wanting to be the hero, and he died a hero trying to save his friends. It's terrible that he didn't get to shoot any that he didn't get to shoot his heroic sacrifice, but it is what it is. The characters being deeply driven and affected by his loss is sweet. Also, yeah, these are actors acting out a scene where their real life friend in a show their real life friend and in show friend died. It's gonna be awkward. The acting in those scenes won't be as professionally acted as their other ones. No one on that set wants to do 20 takes talking about the character Andre's death when the actors are really talking about their friend Chance passing. I have nothing but respect and understanding for how it's been handled. I'm not gonna spend any time nitpicking it. We're gonna put that into critically positive. Because yes, Andre wouldn't just run away, and he wouldn't run away. Marie would run away because Marie's goal, which is something I forgot to mention, is that she's also like looking for her sister. So she manages to get out somehow, and that's where she's gone. She doesn't, I'm not saying she doesn't think about breaking her friends out, but she saw a chance and she took it, right? Andre is emboldened by that, but he wants to take his friends as well. They probably are locked up closer than Marie. Marie saw her one and only chance for herself. She took it. I don't know. We could debate the selfishness of that, right? But he wouldn't run off. He wouldn't skip town. He wanted to be the hero. We see that. And also, yes, when actors die and other actors have to act around that death and they were close to each other, I think it's unfair to demand a level of professionalism. And I know that sounds weird, but it's like you spend hours together on this. It's not like you go in to a cubicle or you go into a fast food joint and you switching, shifts every now and then. You work hours on sets together in each other's faces. It's gonna take a toll. And I feel it's personally okay if, you know, that's how you want to honor that person. You don't want to write them out like it just never happened. So I'm gonna give that a critically positive review. Um, I don't even. There are a lot of X's and G's in this. We're gonna say Avatar because their name is also Avatar. Says it's so dumb when shows do this. Just replace them with a new actor. Black Panther did it and it sucked. And it sucked. And in Gen V, it's just odd. Um, if I won't fully categorize that. I just wanted to show this notion of demanding. So I won't categorize that, but I just wanted to show this like demands for like just replace, like actors are commodities. Okay, but um, and I believe we have two more. So, Death Throne Avatar says, just finished episode one, and I must say the story they chose is fine, and I appreciate that it is dedicated to Chance. Gone too soon, RIP. But I didn't like that almost everyone didn't have a clue at first, and one by one had to be told. This made it feel too dragged out, and coupled with the stiff emotional performances from the crew, which is fine given the circumstances, just took me completely out of the viewing experience more than Chance's death itself. I'll have to report back once I finish the season because others are saying this continues, but I honestly wouldn't mind it if it was just this episode. I think everyone deserves a little grace, and I do like that it's dedicated to Chance. Um, Critically positive. We'll say critically positive. You don't have to always agree with it, and you can acknowledge that if something made it feel too drawn out. I won't say, well, I won't say that it felt too drawn out. I think it was done mostly for audience purposes that everybody had to find out. Um, and people had to react to that differently. So you had to see that. You can just say, oh, Marie knows. And so when they're talking about Andre one day, oh yeah, I miss Andre. Anyway, like, so I see the logic in saying that you felt that it was kind of drawn out, but we're gonna have to disagree on that. I didn't feel that way, but I will put this in a critically positive. And then we have insert name 1738. Andre is a mediocre character played by a bad actor, but if we're candid, that's a lot of Gen V in comparison to the boys. Offensive, and yes, it's a spinoff, but again, if you're holding it to the standard of the boys, I feel like spinoffs should be given them a period of grace to like be their own thing. Like you're not gonna hold the originals to the level of the Vampire Diaries, right? Like the originals is its own thing and it grows on its own concepts. I feel like s- spinoffs should be allowed. They can have like mentions to it, of course, and you can have your opinion about which is better of the two, but it should be allowed to grow into its own thing. And there's no really depth as to why they feel that Andre is a mediocre character and he's played by a bad actor, or that a lot of Gen V is, or why you feel it's worse than the boys. Lastly, we'll move away a little from Andre and we'll go into Jordan. So, ground control, ground control, these names just being merged together. Ground control to Mar Jason says, who else thinks the way that they handled Jordan Lee this season was better? I don't know if I'm in the minority here, but I think that the way Jordan Lee's character is portrayed this season is way better. Um, First off, I think the actor that plays the male version has improved his acting skills significantly last season. I love the character, but I felt like the female version had a better actor. The hair and the transition effects helped it seem like they truly are the same person. I know before there was supposed to be a stark contrast because of the inner conflict and their insecurities about being a female in front of their parents and everything, but sometimes I really did feel like they weren't the same character. I think they really nailed it in this season, and I think both actors have really good chemistry with Marie. Overall, Jordan Lee is one of my favorite characters. It's such a unique idea, and it's executed phenomenally, in my opinion. We're gonna put that in critically positive. They talk about Jordan Lee's uh, inner struggles and a bit about how they feel that they've overcome that in a positive way. Um, we don't praise the actors. They acknowledge that they feel that there was room to grow for the actor, but also they're not holding that to the fault. A lot of times you'll see people like with the comment that I just read, he's a bad actor and a bad character, they'll hold to that fault. So we're gonna put that in critically positive. And OK Constant 9811 says, I thought they did a great job at writing Jordan's character this season two. In an interview for season one, Derek Luce stated that Jordan in their male form was more reserved, less confident, and less confrontational than Jordan in their female form, describing male Jordan as a mask off and female Jordan as mask on. After Elmira, it felt like Jordan, whether in male or female form, was more confident and confrontational as a whole. While male Jordan is still more vulnerable than female Jordan, and female Jordan is still more outspoken than male Jordan, it was nice seeing the writers start to bridge the gap between male and female Jordan forms, uh, formed, likely created by trauma. It's like Jordan is starting to come into their own self. We'll put that into critically positive, going a little bit in depth why they feel that this bridge being put together, coming together is a good thing. And overall, like I said, it was really mostly towards the show, and the show was getting a bit of flack, but also there are those who felt that it was pretty good. I'll say that I watched Gen V before I watched The Boys because I didn't want to watch The Boys because I didn't want to see all that crudeness. And some guy out there is gonna be like, "Oh, pretty little girl didn't want to see the crudeness," but like, no, a lot of that stuff is just not needed. And I know, I believe it's like in season four, and people already have critiques of season four, but the whole hero-gasm and MM being covered in what he was covered in, that is so juvenile humor, and it's not needed. So I watched Gen V because I wanted to review it, and I didn't need that much like context from the boys. It was really easy to follow. So there are other comments that say that, you're just watching it because the boys, or you'll miss nothing. I think it adds a little context to the boys, but all and vice versa. But also, I also didn't need the context of the boys to watch it. I watched it of my own volition, and it has room for growth. I can agree and see the logic and like too much placed on this chosen one, and characters coming into themselves a bit more. But seeing the inner workings of Vought and the marketing and the cutthroatness of that, I think is a brilliant idea. But that's kind of like a overview and a vibe of Gen V. That's pretty much it. That's all. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Stick around for the next episode where we will get into Netflix's The Sandman, and we'll really talk about Daniel Dream and uh Death. Not me forget her name, Death. Maybe a bit to Destiny. Um, we'll get there, so stick around for that next episode. Also, don't forget to leave comments down below. Let me know your opinions about the characters of the show. Be respectful. We can have our conversation with one another, but only if we are respectful. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Stick around for the next episode.